Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This is the Bodega Cat Book Club Spiritual Edition. And today we're continuing our reading of the Kybalion, the Hermetic Philosophy by the Three Initiates. And this is the Centenary Edition. So this book was inspired by a video I saw with Dr. Bruce Lipton. Those of you who don't know who Dr. Bruce Lipton is, he is I guess you could call him scientist. I don't remember what kind of doctor, but in the he studies consciousness and biology and all that. So, and he's been around for a long time. He's written a lot of books. You can check him out on YouTube and other platforms. I'll leave a link in the description box below for you to check that video out, and also a video about the decode on Dr. Bruce Lipton's Kybalion or Hermetic philosophy video. So I'll put those two links down below. So before we begin, if you find this helpful and you find value to what we're doing, consider checking out our other book clubs. We have health book clubs on Wednesdays where we read books about health. And then Thursdays, we have our financial book club where we read books about finance. And we have a newsletter that we put out once a month. So consider subscribe so you know what's going on in the Bodega Cat world. Um, and also, if you have a book that you want to recommend for the book club to read, I'll leave a link in the description box below as well. And then you can recommend any book, whether it's spiritual, health, or finance, and we will consider it. We'd love to read, and we love it when people recommend stuff for us to read. So, anyways, Um, we put all our books, past books that we've read, as well as present books that we're reading on YouTube. So please check out our YouTube channel and please like and subscribe and all that good stuff. So we can share, knowledge and wisdom and information to people. And we also have on our YouTube, we have podcasts as well. Once in a while, I will interview people that the universe brings my way. And, we'll have some interesting conversations about people's life journey, health journey, spiritual journey, things like that. So check us out there on YouTube or on our website. So we put all the information on our website. And if you find this valuable and you want to support us, I appreciate that very, very much. If you can't, that's okay too. We love you anyways. You could buy me a coffee or check out our merch. That's probably the best way to support us is to check out our merch and support us that way. Or you could leave a donation. We appreciate that very much as well. And you can find that on our website. And then lastly, if you are local in the Los Angeles area, or if you're traveling to LA, come visit us in person in our healing center. We have a healing center that we use technologies based on Nikola Tesla's scalar wave research for holistic healing for both animals, dogs and cats, as well as humans. So Nikola Tesla is another scientist, brilliant scientist that worth checking out on YouTube. And that is he's the scientist that the car dealer Tesla, Elon Musk's Tesla, that's the name that he's based on. I don't think when Elon named his company, he had anything to, I don't know if he had the scientist in mind, but anyways, it's named after him. Just a little, uh, what do you call it? Tidbit? I forgot what they call it. A little fun fact, I think they call it that. Okay. All right, enough of that. So back to the Kybalion. This is chapter 2. So we just started it last week. And thank you for being here and sticking with us and enjoying the readings like we do. So if you have a book, you can follow with us there. If not, you can follow with us here on the screen. And anything that are uh, what do you call it? Quotes from the Kybalion. I'll read it 3 times for maximum effect. Um, it's not a hard and fast rule. It's just something that I came up with. So, okay, I'm gonna move the camera in a little bit so you guys can see better. Oops, not the other way, Christina. Okay, all right. So this is the Kybalion, and this is chapter 2. Okay, here we go. The 7 Hermetic Principles. The principles of truth are 7. He who knows these understandingly possess the magic key before whose touch all the doors of the temple fly open, the Kybalion. So I want to read it again 2 more times since it's a quote. The principles of truth are 7, which is a magic number, 7, sacred number. He who knows these understandingly possess the magic key before whose touch all the doors of the temple fly open, the Kybalion. All right, one more time. The principles of truth are 7. He who knows these understandingly possess the magic key before whose touch all the doors of the temple fly open, the Kybalion. The 7 Hermetic principles upon which the entire Hermetic philosophy is based are as follows. 1. The principle of mentalism. 2. The principle of correspondence. 3. The principle of vibration. 4. The principle of polarity. 5. The principle of rhythm. 6. The principle of cause and effect, also known as karma, just a side note. Principle number 7, the principle of gender. These 7 principles will be discussed and explained as we proceed with these lessons. A short explanation of each, however, may as well be given at this point. 1. The principle of mentalism. The all is mind. The universe is mental. The Kybalion. Again, the all is mind. The universe is mental. The Kybalion. One more time. The all, which is God, is mind. The universe is mental, the Kybalion. This principle embodies the truth that all is mind. It explains that the all, which is the substantial reality underlying all the outward manifestations and experiences which we know under the terms of the material universe, the phenomena of life, matter, energy, and in short, all that is apparent to our material senses is spirit, which in itself is unknowable and undefinable, but which may be considered and thought of as an universal, infinite, living mind. It also explains that all the phenomenal world or universe is simply a mental creation of the all, subject to the laws of created things, and that the universe as a whole in its parts or units has its existence in the mind of the all, in which mind we live and move and have our being. This principle, by establishing the mental nature of the universe, easily explains all of the varied mental and psychic phenomena that occupy such a large portion of the public attention and which, without such explanation, are non-understandable and defy scientific treatment. Hmm. I'm gonna move the camera in just a little bit here, uh, so we can see a little better. Okay. Okay, I hope that helps. I know for older people, it's hard to see, myself included. Okay. Uh, where am I? Okay. An understanding of this great Hermetic principle of mentalism enables the individual to readily grasp the laws of the mental universe and to apply the same to his well being and advancement. The Hermetic student is enabled to apply intelligently the great mental laws instead of using them in a haphazard manner. With the master key in his possession, the student may unlock the many doors of the mental and psychic temple of knowledge and enter the same freely and intelligently. This principle explains the true nature of energy, power, and matter, and why and how all these are subordinate to the mastery of mind. One of the old Hermetic masters wrote long ages ago, quote, "He who grasps the truth of the mental nature of the universe is well advanced on the path to mastery." And these words are as true today as at the time they were first written. Without this master key, mastery is impossible, and the student knocks in vain at the many doors of the temple. So, just a side note, in other words, the true reality is in the mind. Everything comes from your thoughts, from your mind. So, your mental health is very important, very important, more important than the food you eat. My teacher used to say that. Okay, number two, the principle of correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. The Kybalion. Again, as above, so below. As below, so above. The Kybalion. As above, so below. As below, so above. The Kybalion. This principle embodies the truth that there is always a correspondence between the laws and phenomena of the various planes of being and life. The old Hermetic axiom ran in these words, as above, so below, as below, so above. There is also, just a side note, there is also another saying, as above, so below, as within, so without. So your inner world reflects your outer world. So if you think of below and above, that's vertical, right? Up and down. As as within, so without, that's horizontal. So it's in and out. So if you think of it, imagine it like a little, like a cross, up and down, left to right. I don't know. Anyways, and the grasping of this principle gives one the means of solving many a dark paradox, the hidden secret of nature. There are planes beyond our knowing, but when we apply the principle of correspondence to them, we're able to understand much that would otherwise be unknowable to us. This principle is of universal application and manifestation on the various planes of the material, mental, and spiritual universe. It is an universal law. The ancient Hermetists considered this principle as one of the most important mental instruments by which man was able to pry aside the obstacles which hid from view the unknown. Its use even tore aside the veil of Isis to the extent that a glimpse of the face of the goddess might be caught. Just as a knowledge of the principles of geometry enables man to measure distant suns and their movements while seated in his observatory, so a knowledge of the principle of correspondence enables man to reason intelligently from the unknown to the known. Studying the monad, he understands the archangel. Mm. And just another side note, studying the archangel also or angels, also known as Theurgy, Theurgy, is one of the three fastest paths to spiritual evolution. So if you want to put your spiritual evolution on steroids, Studying angels is one of them because they are portals to the inner world. So, uh, the other two is the study of astrology, not the YouTube type, the mystical type, um, which is an inner knowledge. And then the third one, I don't remember what my teacher said. Angels, alchemy. Alchemy is the third one. So if you want to accelerate your spiritual evolution and put it on steroids, you want to study these three in the mystical sense: alchemy, angels, and astrology. Okay, number three, the principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates, the Kybalion. Again, nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates, the Kybalion. One more time. Nothing moves, nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates, the Kybalion. Okay. I was thinking of a movie, just another side note, with World War Z with Brad Pitt. Once in the movie, he says to one of the people, "Life is movement." I don't know why I always remember that. Life is movement. You have to move. You always have to move. Okay, this principle embodies the truth that everything is in motion, everything vibrates, nothing is at rest. Facts which modern science endorses, and which each new scientific discovery tends to verify. And yet, this Hermetic principle was enunciated thousands of years ago by the masters of ancient Egypt. This principle explains that the differences between different manifestations of matter, energy, mind, and even spirit result largely from varying rates of vibration. From the all, which is pure spirit, down to the grossest form of matter, all is in vibration. The higher the vibration, the higher the position in the scale. There are gross forms of matter whose vibrations are so low as to seem at rest. Between these poles, there are millions upon millions of varying degrees of vibration, from corpuscule and electron, atom and molecule to worlds and universes. Everything is in vibratory motion. This is also true on the planes of energy and force, which are but varying degrees of vibration, and also on the mental planes, whose states depend upon vibrations, and even on to the spiritual planes. An understanding of this principle with the appropriate formulas enables Hermetic students to control their own mental vibrations as well as those of others. Oops. Sorry, I hope you saw that. Okay. Let me read that sentence again so you guys can see it. Okay, an understanding of this principle with the appropriate formulas enables Hermetic students to control their own mental vibrations as well as those of others, also known as telepathy, or the Jedi thing, right? The Jedi mind thing. The masters also apply this principle to the conquering of natural phenomena in various ways. He who understands the principle of vibration has grasped the scepter of power, says one of the old writers. Number four, the principle of duality. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has a pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. The Kybalion. Wow, this is a complicated one. Okay, let's read it again. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. The Kybalion. All right, last time. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. The Kybalion. Wow, the last sentence kind of struck me. I have to kind of digest and think about that, where it says, all truths are but half truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. Interesting. Okay. This principle embodies the truth that everything is dual, everything has two poles, everything has its pair of opposites, all of which were old Hermetic axioms. It explains the old paradoxes that have perplexed so many, which have been stated as follows. Quote, thesis and antithesis are identical in nature, but different in degree. Opposites are the same, differing only in degree. The pairs of opposites may be reconciled. Extremes meet. Everything is and isn't at the same time. All truths are but half truths. Every truth is half false. There are two sides to everything, etc., etc., etc. It explains that in everything there are two poles or opposite aspects, and that opposites are really only the two extremes of the same thing, which many varying degrees between them. To illustrate heat and cold, although opposites are really the same thing, the differences consisting merely of degrees of the same thing. Look at your thermometer and see if you can discover where, quote, heat terminates and cold begins. There is no such thing as absolute heat or absolute cold. The two terms heat and cold simply indicate varying degrees of the same thing. And that same thing, which manifests as heat and cold, is merely a form, variety, and rate of vibration. So heat and cold are simply the two poles of that which we call heat. And the phenomena attendant thereupon are manifestations of the principle of polarity. The same principle manifests in the case of light and darkness, which are the same thing, the difference consisting of varying degrees between the two poles of the phenomena. Interesting, eh? So people who say opposites attract, so the two opposites are the same people, but just different varying degrees of personality. Huh. That's an interesting way of looking at things. I've never thought of it that way. Huh. Okay, sorry, a little squirrel there. That was just thought that just hit me. Okay, where does darkness leave off and light begin? What is the difference between large and small? Between hard and soft, between black and white, between sharp and dull, between noise and quiet, between high and low, between positive and negative. The principle of polarity explains these paradoxes, and no other principle can supersede it. The same principle operates on the mental plane. Let us take a radical and extreme example, that of love and hate. Two mental states apparently totally different, and yet there are degrees of hate and degrees of love, and a middle point in which we use the terms dislike or dislike, which shade into each other so gradually that sometimes we are at a loss to know whether we like or dislike or neither. And all are simply degrees of the same thing, as you will see if you will but think a moment. And more than this, and considered of more importance by the Hermetists, it is possible to change the vibrations of hate to the vibrations of love in one's own mind and in the minds of others. Oh, sorry. Forgot to move the book here a little bit. So let me try that sentence again. Okay. And more than this, and considered of more importance by the Hermetists, It is possible to change the vibrations of hate to the vibrations of love in one's own mind and in the minds of others. Many of you who read these lines have had personal experiences of the involuntary rapid transition from love to hate and the reverse in your own case and that of others. And you will therefore realize the possibility of this being accomplished by the use of the will by means of the Hermetic formulas. Good and evil are but the poles of the same thing, and the Hermetist understands the art of transmuting evil into good by means of an application of the principle of polarity. In short, the art of polarization becomes a phase of mental alchemy, known and practiced by the ancient and modern Hermetic masters. An understanding of the principle will enable one to change his own polarity as well as that of others if he will devote the time and study necessary to master the art. That is the key, isn't it? Devote the time and study. Most people in our society today doesn't want to do the work but wants the reward, but it doesn't work that way. In the inner world, you have to do the work in order to get the reward. Okay, number 5, the principle of rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. The Kybalion. Again, everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. The Kybalion. One last time. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. The Kybalion. This principle embodies the truth that in everything there is manifested a measured motion, to and fro, a flow and inflow, a swing backward and forward, a pendulum-like movement, a tide-like ebb and flow, a high tide and low tide. Between the two poles which exist in accordance with the principle of polarity described a moment ago. There's always an action and a reaction, an advance and a retreat, a rising and a sinking. This is in the affairs of the universe. Suns, worlds, men, animals, mind, energy, and matter. This law is manifest in the creation and destruction of worlds, in the rise and fall of nations, in the life of all things, and finally in the mental states of man. And it is with this latter that the Hermetists find the understanding of the principle most important. The Hermetists have grasped this principle, finding its universal application, and have also discovered certain means to overcome its effects in themselves by the use of the appropriate formulas and methods. They apply the mental law of neutralization. They cannot annul the principle or cause it to cease its operation, but they have learned how to escape its effect upon themselves to a certain degree, depending upon the mastery of the principle. They have learned how to use it instead of being used by it. In this and similar methods consists the art of the Hermetists. The master of Hermetics polarizes himself at the point at which he desires to rest, and then neutralizes the rhythmic swing of the pendulum, which would tend to carry him to the other pole. All individuals who have attained any degree of self-mastery do this to a certain degree, more or less unconsciously, but the master does this consciously and by the use of his will, and attains a degree of poise and mental firmness almost impossible of belief on the part of the masses that are swung backward and forward like a pendulum. This principle and that of polarity have been closely studied by the Hermetists, and the methods of counteracting, neutralizing, and using them form an important part of the Hermetic mental alchemy. Six, the principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law, the Kybalion. Again, every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law, the Kybalion. Last time, every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law, the Kybalion. And just a side note, the principle of cause and effect is also known as the law of karma. And I remember my teacher said if people truly, truly, truly understand how karma works, they would think twice when they do bad things, before they do bad things, or they would think twice before they do anything. So all these stories about bad people doing bad things, at some point, whether it's this life or future lives, what they did, the bad things that they did to people will come back to them tenfold. So even though some of us are frustrated about not seeing justice, I'm talking in general now about the geopolitical things that are happening. They still cannot escape the law of karma. And we don't know whether they do bad things or not. It's not for us to judge. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But that is their journey, their spiritual path, and their spiritual lessons that they need to learn. So, all we can do as spiritual practitioners is to hold the light, to bring in the light, um, and really, to pray for them with no judgment. Because whatever it is they do, it will come back to them. So, anyways, just a side note there, my little 10 cents, 2 cents, more like 1 cent, which they don't make anymore. So, okay. All right, this principle embodies the fact that there is a cause for every effect and effect from every cause. It explains that, quote, everything happens according to law, that nothing ever merely happens, that there is no such thing as chance, that while there are various planes of cause and effect, the higher dominating the lower planes, still nothing ever entirely escapes the law. The Hermetists understand the art and methods of rising above the ordinary plane of cause and effect to a certain degree. And by mentally rising to a higher plane, they become causers instead of effects. The masses of people are carried along, obedient to environment, the wills and desires of others stronger than themselves, heredity, suggestion, and other outward causes moving them like pawns on the chessboard of life. But the master But the masters rising to the plane above dominate their moods, characters, qualities, and powers, as well as the environment surrounding them, and become movers instead of pawns. They help to play the game of life instead of being played and moved about by other wills and environment. They use the principle instead of being its tools. The masters obey the causation of the higher planes, but they help to rule on their own plane. In this statement, there is condensed a wealth of Hermetic knowledge. Let him read who can. 7, the principle of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principle. Gender manifests on all planes, the Kybalion. Again, gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes, the Kybalion. One last time, gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes, the Kybalion. I have a thought that just came to mind. There's a lot of talk about the transgender movement and the physical alteration of the biological body. And I'm wondering if this is just a thought experiment that I'm just kind of putting it out there. I wonder if a lot of these people who are pushing for this ideology is trying to apply the principle of gender into this world reality. So remember, we are spirits in a physical body. So God is spirit, right? Holy Spirit is spirit. Spirit doesn't have a gender. Spirit is neutral. It doesn't have a male or female gender, right? Or another way to look at it, the spirit has both male and female gender uh, principles, right? So I wonder if these people who are pushing this transgender ideology wants to accomplish that neutral gender on the spirit realm into the physical realm, which doesn't work that way because the physical realm has its laws. So we got laws of physics and uh, thermodynamic and Newtonian laws and all that kind of laws, right? But on the upper planes, on the higher planes or other dimensions, they have their own laws. I hope I'm making sense. I don't know if I am, but it's just a thought that came to me. But it doesn't work that way because each dimension has its own laws, and you have to operate within those laws within that dimension. And you can't cross, we can't force a law from another dimension to another dimension. I don't know if I'm making sense, but anyways, if you don't understand it, don't worry. I'm just probably babbling, blah, 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 blah. Okay. This principle embodies the truth that there is gender manifested in everything, the masculine and feminine principles ever at work. This is not true only of the physical plane, but of the mental and even the spiritual planes. On the physical plane, the principle manifests as sex. On the higher planes, it takes higher forms, but the principle is ever the same. No creation, physical, mental, or spiritual, is possible without this principle. Excuse me. An understanding of its laws will throw light on many a subject that has perplexed the minds of men. The principle of gender works ever in the direction of generation, regeneration, and creation. Everything and every person contains the two elements or principles, or this great principle within it, him or her. Every male thing has the female element also. Every female contains also the male principle. If you would understand the philosophy of mental and spiritual creation, generation, and regeneration, you must understand and study this Hermetic principle. It contains the solution of many mysteries of life. We caution you that this principle has no reference to the many base, pernicious, and degrading lustful theories, teaches, and practices which are taught under fanciful titles and which are a prostitution of the great natural principle of gender. Well, uh, that sort of addresses what I was talking about in the beginning of this section, isn't it? Except I probably didn't articulate it as well. Huh. But okay. Such base revivals of the ancient infamous forms of phallicism tend to ruin mind, body, and soul. And the Hermetic philosophy has ever sounded the warning note against these degraded teachings, which tend toward lust, licentiousness, and perversion of nature's principles. If you seek such teachings, you must go elsewhere for them. Hermeticism contains nothing for you along these lines. To the pure, all things are pure. To the base, all things are base. That's the principle of polarity, isn't it? Oh, thank you, Toth, for this teaching. And that's the end of chapter 2. Wow. This is very dense. I think you can take one principle and learn it for a lifetime, and then come back the next lifetime and learn the principle number 2, and so forth and so on and so forth. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. And we will continue our reading next time. And in the meantime, check out our website and our YouTube channel and support us any way you can. And we'll see you next week. In the meantime, have a great day, great week, great afternoon, wherever you guys are at. All right, bye bye now.